The title of our lecture today is what we're talking about when we talk about economics. So the motivation behind our lecture today is that we see a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions of the word economics portrayed in media and other places. So our objective today is to provide a fair representation of the discipline or the subject, economics. And by the end of today's lecture, I hope that the audience will have a good understanding of what types of research actually has been done in the field economics and how economics has been developed or revolutionized throughout human history. So I have made this chart that demonstrates the four most important approaches to the studies of economics. Although they are always interacting with each other, it is a useful and informative way to talk through the field of economics with this classification. So let's start by talking about economic philosophy. So current researchers, they study the development of economic thoughts from various economic philosophers and thinkers since Adam Smith. I believe the names and theories of some economic thinkers are quite well known to all of us. For example, Adam Smith's invisible hand, David Ricardo's comparative advantage, and Thomas Malthus's theories on population. It is possible to say that the study of economics comes later than the study of political science or politics. But since Adam Smith, economics has become a very important subject in social sciences and sociology. Not only that the study of economics has shaped human development, the history of human development has shaped the development of economic studies as well. So there is a mutual dependency between the development of human society and the development of social sciences. There are some names of some modern economic thinkers that are also quite well known to us. For example, John Maynard Keynes, Joseph Schumpeter, and Milton Friedman. Those modern economic thinkers also have very important impacts and significances on the way economic world is shaped in the human world and how economic policies and social policies are formulated by governments in the West. For example, Milton Friedman's arguments are important basis for the policies of Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher in the United States and in the UK. Contemporary researchers in this field of history of economic thought, they try to compare the thoughts and theories of important economic thinkers and philosophers in the past. And also, they try to interpret classical texts. Then, let's move on to talk about economic history. So the study of economic history is part of the study of history or world history itself. Some researchers focus on specific regions and areas. You can call it regional studies, and some historians, they focus on the study of the whole world. If we go back to the ancient times, the study of economic history is also part of anthropology. And anthropologists, they could discuss about the development of different human stages, from hunter-gatherers, agriculture, to industrialization, to the service sector. We can divide up economic history to some subfields by regions. For example, Japanese economic history, Chinese economic history, and Asian economic history. When we talk about Japanese economic history, we often talk about the Meiji Restoration and the modernization of Japan. And we also talk about the economic miracle of Japan after World War II and its lost decades after the bubble has burst. When we talk about Chinese economic history, we often talk about how China has achieved an economic miracle after its opening up to the world markets. When we talk about Asian economic history, the researchers often talk about how the authoritative regimes have helped the Asian economies to develop. And also, they probably talk about this flying geese model with Japan as a leader. And also, they talk about the newly industrialized economies, the four tigers, war dragons, and so on. And another important topic in economic history is the study of financial crises in human history. For example, the Great Depression in America, and also the financial crises in America, Asia, and the world. And if we go back earlier in time, we can talk about this tulip crisis, where Netherlanders, they were obsessed with tulip, and tulip had the price bubble. So then let's talk about theoretical economics. If you are a student majoring in economics, no matter where you are studying, which university you are studying, the mandatory courses and the introductory courses normally begin with microeconomics and macroeconomics introduction. In those courses, you will study the fundamentals, the basic theories in those two fields of theoretical economics. Sometimes we call them the classical economic models. And also, there are some other introductory courses in mathematics, statistics, econometrics, and game theory. So in these subjects, you'll be able to study extensively the interaction between mathematics, statistics, and formal models with economics. Some of you might have watched this movie called Beautiful Mind that talks about the life story of John Nash, the founder of the Nash equilibrium in game theory. The models and concepts in game theory, they help us analyze the interactions between individuals, groups, and even countries. For example, they are very helpful in modeling the market behavior of firms and also the conflicts and wars between countries. So they are not only used in microeconomics, but also in places like international relations and political science. And later we will see econometrics is also a very important building block of our current applied empirical economic research. Okay, so let's move on to talk about the applied field of economics. So with the development of economics, with statistical learning and machine learning techniques, we have so many subfields in applied economics in the recent decades. For example, labor economics, development economics, environmental economics, population economics, health economics, food economics, money and banking, public finance, corporate finance, international trade, agricultural and urban economics. For example, labor economics as a subfield of microeconomics, it talks about the decisions and choices made by households and firms and also labor unions. And population economics, it extensively talks about the issues of immigration and technology transfer. And agricultural economics, environmental economics, and development economics, they have a large focus on developing and underdeveloped regions in the world, for example, Africa. And urban economics, health economics, and food economics, they can talk about public policy and governmental decisions. And urban economics even can focus on crime behavior. Other than those mentioned, some popular fields include corporate finance, public finance, international finance, and money and banking. So corporate finance talk about finance on the level of a firm, and public finance is talking about the budgetary process and the expenditures of governments. And international finance, international trade, they talk about the exchanges of currencies and goods of different governments and regions. And money and banking, it also talk about currency exchange rates and also commodity exchanges. So we should be aware that when we talk about finance, it is actually a combination of various finances. And there is also the field of family finance, where it talks about how parents and households, they make decisions regarding their income and investment and how they spend on their children. In the recent decades, another field of economics has been really popular, which is behavioral economics and experimental economics. Some researchers, such as Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler, they've won Nobel Prizes and written really popular and best-selling books on this field. So what the behavioral economists do is that they try to compare the classical economic models with the real-world situations regarding human behavior and firm behavior. So we can probably say that theoretical economics, such as game theory, they depend, importantly, on mathematical deduction, which means that they have some assumptions, preliminaries, and presuppositions in front of them, and they try to deduce mathematically the outcomes of certain economic scenarios. On the other hand, experimental economics focus on the collection of data and information from the subjects the researchers are studying. They mimic some kind of randomized controlled trial, which is used normally in medical sciences and biology. They try to see the impact of certain policies and certain signals in a lab environment. So one of the key messages of behavioral economics is that there are some discrepancies between classical economic models and actual human behavior in real life. Sometimes there is information asymmetry, there is moral hazard and adverse selection. And also, we probably, as animals, we have inherited some unavoidable, irrational sort of mindset or behavior from our ancestors in the past. So humans are not free from different kind of biases. In other words, humans are easily manipulated by the information and scenarios around them. And for example, there is anchoring effect, there is framing effect, and we are easily manipulated by the phrases, the wording of media reports or advertisements. So I have just briefly talked through the subfields of economic philosophy, economic history, theoretical economics, and applied economics. And all of them come under the field of economics, and they always interact with each other. And very importantly, economics is ever developing subject. We can always have more applied economics field in the future. For example, fintech is one of the recent developing fields of applied economics. And also, what I want to say is that like other social sciences, like political science, there are debates and controversies in various fields of economics. Different researchers can arrive at different conclusions. This is exactly the reason why social sciences and economics are really charming and interesting to study about, because there are controversies, because there are points of conflicts and debates. So different researchers can share ideas, opinions, and research outputs with each other. And we will look forward to the future results of behavioral experimental economics and other fields of economics. The various approaches include the normative studies, formal models, and empirical analysis, which focus on classical texts or mathematics or statistical learning. They often have important implications on each other. And what I want to end this lecture is by saying that finance or financial technology, they do not represent everything in economics, even though they are very popularly discussed in media. There are other important and interesting fields in the field of economics. And I would like to suggest everyone to sort of investigate into other fields of economics and try to understand that economics and political science and other social sciences, they have multiple angles and perspectives to study. And also, Only by understanding the whole picture of economics, we can have a better understanding of the world we are living, and also how we have become the people we are today.